Hello everybody, my name's Darren and welcome back to the Kilowatt Challenge, the YouTube series where I completely modify all the electrical system and all the heating systems in my house to go off grid for 24 hours in the summer. Sounds interesting? Click subscribe. And in today's episode, we're going to talk about maths, we're going to talk about numbers, we're going to talk about statistics. Now before you click the back button, before you click stop, you might find this interesting because today we're going to talk about how many of these, an old laptop battery, do you need to process to get a reasonable amount of these, which are usable 18650 cells. Now, in today's episode, along the way, you might see some of this. I was going to say thermometer, that's not right, is it? There'll be a little bit of this. Nah, no good. And there might even be one of these pants. So, anyway, sit back, enjoy yourself. Do you know what? Filming that intro every time, it's actually harder than you think. Right, listen, today, before I start to introduce all my free unused cells, which I got on my last video from Stockholm, 680 of them, I thought it would be a good idea if we just take a look at how many cells I've processed so far, and then have a look at the statistics. How many of those cells are usable? And how many of them we just have to simply throw away or recycle? You'd be surprised at the numbers actually, because I was. It's often quite easy when you're cracking open laptop batteries and testing them to think that a lot of them, most of them, it feels like all of them, you're just putting to one side because they're not usable. But I think you'd be surprised. Take a look at this. So these are pretty much all of the cells that I've processed so far. Let me walk you through what we've got. So here we have 2,000 18650 cells, all of which have been reclaimed and recycled from dead, unused laptop batteries and e-bike batteries as well. They've all been tested for their initial voltage to make sure they're over 1.0 volts. They've all then been charged and then discharged, and during the discharge cycle they've all been measured in terms of their capacity, so I can calculate how much capacity each cell realistically has. Now, there's a lot of batteries here, and it's taken an awful long time to do this, partly because in the beginning I only had one Opus discharger to be able to measure it, of which now I have three, so that's fixed that problem. But let me just walk you through what we've got here. So, on the very left hand side, we've got the box. This is the box of doom. This is the box of hell no. These are the, oh it stinks. These are the batteries which come out and they're already burst, broken, they've already burnt, they've been submerged in water. They are just hell no. We're not going to use those. So, there's not many of those, but out of 2,000, not too bad. The next row, we have heaters. Now, heaters, these cells, red Sanyo cells, are notorious for getting hot. Very, very hot during particularly the charging cycle. They tend to get up to around about 4.1, 4.15 volts, but they never quite top out. They're never quite fully charged, and they end up just dissipating a ton of heat. And you can spot these because the capacity tends to be ridiculously high. And it's because your charger's just charging, and counting all those milliamps it's trying to pump into this battery. But in fact, they just generate massive amounts of heat. That's why I want a thermal camera for my Patreon members. That's why I'm saving up for that, so I can spot the heaters whilst I'm using my charging bank to be able to charge lots at the same time to save some time. Right, there were my heaters. The next ones, when I crack open the laptop batteries, occasionally I get cells like any of these which are absolutely dead. And it's typically these cells which are the reason why the laptop battery has been discarded or sent off to recycling or something like that. And it's usually the fact that the CID, the little protective device inside the top of the cell, has popped. So these are all my dead or 0 volt batteries. The next pile, and the numbers are beginning to increase now, it might be worth pointing out that each one of these rows is 100. So we've got 100, 100, 100. Here we've got almost 200. That'll help you out. I'll give you the statistics in the end. Now this pile are all batteries which are just under 1 volt or less than 1 volt. So when you open up the laptop battery, when you measure each individual cell using a, I was going to say a thermometer, that's not right, is it? A multimeter. God, what am I doing? Any cell which is under 1 volt, I don't want to use that because it's been stressed, it's been discharged to a point whereby I don't think it will fully recover back to its original specification. So I tend to just put those in this pile here. What I'm going to do with those at the end of the project? Don't know. Probably just recycle them. Okay, the next pile, and this is surprisingly small, these cells are all my self-discharging cells. So when I crack open a laptop battery, I initially test these cells. They come out okay. They've got more than 1 volt. They then go into the the charging process. They're left to rest for a month. They are then either discharged, or immediately I can see by testing them again that they are slowly self-discharging. So all of these batteries have been charged, left for a period of time, and then after a month typically during my process, when I've come to test them again, I've measured them with a multimeter and they've been way less than 4.1 volts. That is far less than I thought we were going to get. Right, moving on. These cells, of which there's 120-ish something of them, are all tested and coming out at less than 1,500 milliamp hours. So in the old days, these were actually pretty good cells, but I don't want to use these in my Powerwall. I want to use cells which have got 2,000 milliamp hours or more. So these cells, don't know what to do with these. Rather a lot, as is here as well. 208 cells, of which all have been tested and come out at 1,500 milliamps to 2,000 milliamp hours to 2,000 milliamp hours. Now, these guys I'm going to have to put into some other kind of side project. I'm probably going to build an e-go-kart, or I'm probably going to build some crazy power tool thing, or I might even mod my electric scooter to give it massive amounts of range or something like that. Don't know what to do with those, but these are not going to get into the Powerwall, unfortunately. Still pretty good batteries, but not for the Powerwall. Now we're getting into the good stuff. These guys. This is 2,000 to 2,200 milliamp hours. 180 approximately. These guys are 2,200 up until 2,400 milliamp hours, and this is the largest majority of batteries which you can see that I'm getting. Here we've got 2,400 to 2,600 milliamp hours, and this is 2,600. There is some here, I promise you. 2,600 and above. So there's not so many of those. So you can see that the majority of my cells are all here. And these are the cells that I'm going to be using in the Powerwall. These are the cells which I'm going to be keeping. Those cells, all of this lot, nah, no good. Rubbish. Pants. Right, so let's give you some statistics. Let me tell you the actual numbers. So it turns out that approximately 30% of my cells are absolutely useless. And when I say useless, I mean they're the cells which are, when I first open the packs, they are less than 1 volt all the way down to, hell no, the ones which have been water damaged and all that sort of stuff. Now this is where it gets interesting. Approximately 12% of the cells are between 1,500 milliamp hours and 2,000 milliamp hours. They're in the range of go-karts, power tools, building another project, something else, ideas, write something in the comment. And finally, out of the 2,000 cells that you can see behind me, after processing them for nearly 6 months, it turns out that just over 50% of the cells are keepers. 50% are keepers. That is what I call a result. So that's it for another one. Rather a short video today, don't you think? That's nice to have a bit of a change. Don't forget to like, subscribe, Patreon. Have you thought about Patreon? These guys did. Look, they've all got a silver cell. How cool is that? You want one of those, don't you? You do, don't you? You do, you do. Right, I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye, goodbye, goodbye.